Welcome to Sleepover Cinema, where we analyze the films that created the collective unconscious of those who turn their face away from the garish light of day. I'm Hannah Leach.
And I'm Audrey Leach. We are the sister filmmaking duo, also known as toopinkpictures, and we have not stopped thinking about these movies since we first saw them.
We're going to explore the good, the bad, and the nonsensical of the movies that first inspired our love for film in an attempt to answer the question, are these movies actually good? And at the end of the day, do we really care if they are?
Today, we are kicking off our musical mini-season by talking about 2004's The Phantom of the Opera.
So in our last episode, we were like, when we do our long-awaited Phantom episode someday, and then we were like, let's do it next.
It's now. It's happening now. And I have to say, guys, like, the rest of the season 3, it will be filled with a lot of vocals, and it's going to be either really fun for you or really not.
Really horrible. You might have to find a new podcast if you don't like that.
But like, I'm going to put in my effort. That's the thing.
Starting with Phantom of the Opera is, as kids like to say, choosing violence 100%.
Yeah.
But we have such a storied history with this movie, and I have just derived so much joy from this movie and also talking about it with other people. I did a whole audio essay with a bunch of different sources for my other podcast called Wholehearted, where I talked to people about the influence of Phantom of the Opera on their developing childhood brains. And I will link to that in the description, because if you like this episode, you'll definitely like that too. But this movie is the gift that keeps on giving for me personally. And I cannot wait to talk about it. So The Phantom of the Opera was released on December 22nd, 2004 in the US, wide release in theaters. So the movie was based on the now running for over 25 years Phantom of the Opera Broadway musical, but the Broadway musical was based upon the 1910 novel Le Fantôme de l'Opéra by Gaston Leroux. It was a French novel. It was very popular at the time. The chain of IP for this went novel, weird silent film with Lon Chaney in it, and that one was really famous. Then the Broadway musical, then Phantom of the Megaplex, then Phantom of the Opera, if we're going to include that movie in there.
Oh, I was like, I guess
that's kind of on its own island, though. No, they're not actually related. But I have never even seen that movie, but I feel like people always want to bring that up whenever I talk about Phantom, but I don't know. Whatever. Oh, and I have to say, I read this novel in middle school And I remember so vividly reading it in the doctor's office while Audrey was getting allergy tested in another room, and she was like wailing existentially in the next room over. And I was just like, I am a weird 7th grader reading my novel.
Yeah, for some reason, just side note, for some reason they decided to give a child a 1 by 1, like 1 prick by 1 prick at a time allergy test instead of doing the stamps like they normally do. And how dumb can you be? Like, that was
I didn't
so
realize
stupid.
that that's what it was. I thought it was the tray with all the pricks on it.
It was, but they were doing it 1 at a time instead of the stamps. Like, they'll have a stamp of like 30 of them, and they'll just like do it all at once, but they were going 1 by 1, and that's why I was having such a hard time. Yes, I remember it.
That sounds miserable. Anyway, so that evocative and painful middle school memory for both of us, just keep that in the stew as we talk about this movie, because that kind of shit is very tied to this movie in my brain. This movie was directed by Joel Schumacher, who turned out that he died in July 2020, which I didn't realize. But he is best known / infamous for directing the 90s Batman and Robin and Batman Forever movies. People love to shit on them because they're like super campy and weird. He actually started as a costume designer, I discovered in my research. And he also directed St. Elmo's Fire, which is a movie that you may or may not know it from the Bowling for Soup hit 1985. That's how I know what it is, to be totally honest. The movie was produced by none other than Sir Andrew Lloyd Webber, described on Wikipedia as arguably the most successful composer of our time. The shows that he is like best known for are Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita, Cats, Phantom obviously, Sunset Boulevard, Love Never Dies, which is the sequel to Phantom of the Opera, School of Rock, SMH, we're not talking about that. And
we're
currently,
not.
Okay, so I saw on his thing that he was working on a 2021 Cinderella, and I was like, don't tell me this man got caught up in that Amazon thing. But I clicked on it, and that's actually not what it is. He is doing original music for a stage adaptation of Cinderella, I guess, that they're like opening in the West End, but they keep like launching it and then taking it off because of COVID. And then also just like for flavor, Andrew Lloyd Webber is like very polarizing because he doesn't, this is my understanding, he doesn't actually like arrange his songs. He like comes up with the melodies in his mind and then like goes to an arranger and then they arrange them, and he also doesn't write lyrics. But I do think that he comes up with like the big concepts, and honestly the ideas are what really propel a lot of this.
He doesn't write lyrics?
No.
What?
Yeah.
Okay.
No. That's why some people are like, this man is sketchy. Okay, there might be like a few instances of him writing lyrics, but like mostly he doesn't.
So who writes them?
He works with different people all the time. Like I know Tim Rice did Joseph,
right,
and I'm pretty sure Tim Rice
one.
did Jesus Christ Superstar. But obviously School of Rock wasn't him. Like I think
when I saw that show, well, first of all, why just no, we're not getting into it. But the lyrics are not good. They're not good.
Yeah. No.
They're very basic, a la Heather's the Musical. We'll go buy some summer clothes.
I was just about to say that.
Yeah.
That is truly one of the worst lines. What is the context of that?
She's trying to convince him.
But we'll let go, take a deep breath, and go
to like
buy
be
some
kids.
Summer clothes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But what does
she's
it
like,
rhyme
stop.
with?
We'll go camping. So what's before that?
That's after. What is it?
It's and you're right. That really blows.
Oh my God! Right, even better than Nose. Honestly, they sold it though. That cast was amazing because, fun fact, Audrey and I saw the original cast of Heathers on 420 in 2014 on Easter.
It's true.
God,
420 Easter 2014. What could be more potent than
literally just perfect. So the screenplay for Phantom of the Opera was written by Andrew Lloyd Webber and Joel Schumacher, and it shows because basically there is no screenplay. It's just the songs because it's like an operetta style, like Les Mis, basically. Not to bring up Les Mis. I can't wait to do an episode on that one too. Okay. Whew. This plot synopsis. Audrey, just take us through these next two thingies here.
A young soprano becomes the obsession of a disfigured and murderous musical genius who lives beneath the Paris Opera House. That's pretty good. I'll take that. I think that's good. Very simplified, but to the point.
Yes.
And then taglines. This is interesting to me because it's kind of like, how are you going to market it to a general audience?
Right.
Obviously, tons of people already are aware of it, but still. So the first one is, her voice became his passion. Her love became his obsession. Her refusal became his rage. The second one is, listen to the music of the night. The third one is, the world's biggest musical. That's just a fact. The fourth one is, the waiting is over. ... Let the fantasy begin. And the last one is, the classic musical comes to the big screen for the first time. Also just a marketing fact.
Yes. And we're going to come...
They could have said, let the dream unwind. Is that?
Let the dream begin.
They did.
Let the
They
dream begin.
But he does say unwind.
That's let your
some point.
fantasies unwind.
Yeah, let your fantasies unwind. That's good.
We're going to come back to The Waiting is Over because there was a very, very long period of what we call development hell, pre-production hell on this movie, like an unbelievably long period. And I really did my research for this one, so I will have things to say about that. But before we get to that, let's talk about this cast. This bold cast. Okay, so first of all, we have Gerard Butler as the Phantom. A controversial casting choice to this very day. He is best known now for being the Phantom, for being 300, not being 300, but being the guy in 300, the bounty hunter, law-abiding citizen. But leading up to Phantom, because I was like, why did they pick him? Like, I don't understand why they picked him. He like wasn't even that famous. But the stuff he had been in Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Lucy Sullivan is Getting Married, Shooters, The Jury. Like he had a career, but like it wasn't anything particularly huge. But then today, this morning, I watched the behind the scenes documentary of the making of the movie, and the director was talking about how they wanted like a relative unknown for it because they didn't want the audience to be like, oh, that's Antonio Banderas or like whoever, because he was originally up for the part. So they picked Gerard. And also just a general note about this movie that really just runs through the whole thing is that Andrew Lloyd Webber called all the shots because he was the executive producer and he has a shitload of money. And he basically chose the director over 10 years in advance based off of nothing except for one movie he had seen him direct. And then this man just had like a ton of power in the whole thing. Joel did, but we'll come back to that because I have more information on it. But it's very much like, let men with their money sit in the sandbox and do whatever they want, and like this is kind of what you get. Not to say that this is the worst movie ever, but we'll get into that. Okay, next up we have Emmy Rossum as Christine, who is definitely best known now as having played Fiona in Shameless for like a million episodes. And the year she turned 18, the two movies that she's like best known for, Phantom and The Day After Tomorrow, came out. So she was a child actor pretty clearly. But leading up to Phantom of the Opera, she sang in like the New York Metropolitan Opera. She was like always a theater kid. She was in this movie called Mystic River, but she was like relatively undiscovered. And we also just can't forget she had this album that came out around Phantom of the Opera that was like very like Imogen Heap inspired, like primarily vocals, like.
Oh my God, Hannah.
You just gotta look up the music video for Slow Me Down.
I literally just had like a flashback. running and racing and I'm forgetting my purpose.
Getting my purpose.
Yeah.
I wish I could sing with you in person. If we record an episode in person on vacation, it's gonna be over. She was also 16 for the filming of this movie, which at the time I was like jealous.
But now,
when I first watched it, but now looking back at it, I'm like, both of the leads were like in their mid-30s.
Like, dodged a bullet, actually. Was I in the running for the part? No, but I dodged
that was on purpose. That was the good Lord looking out for me.
I was actually 6 or 7. But
next up, we have... So I only included 5 people in this list because there's just so much to say with this episode. But next up, we have Patrick Wilson as Raoul. Truly my favorite man.
Favorite man to exist.
Period. Favorite man to exist. He's so hot. I love him so much. He is known for being in Phantom, but also he is in Hard Candy, starring opposite of Elliot Page, and he also is in Insidious and The Conjuring. He's like very involved in like the Blumhouse horror movies. And he also played a big part in the Angels in America HBO series that I always talk about. And he was also in The Watchmen. And really endearingly, when I was looking things up about him today, there's like a subcategory on his Wikipedia that says Scream King persona. So it's like talking about how he is like super into being in horror movies now, and just like Scream King is just such a compelling way to describe it. Like, yes, he is that. But he actually didn't do any film or TV until probably like around 2000. He was primarily a Broadway touring / theater guy beforehand, which you can obviously tell in this movie. And last but not least, he sang in Julie Andrews' Kennedy Center Honors Ceremony, and I just want to know how that makes Audrey feel.
I didn't know that
happened.
Oh my god.
Yes, he did. He was there, and he sang a song for her. And let it be known that back in the day when we watched this movie, I always thought the Phantom was the hottest, and I didn't even talk about that. I fucking loved Gerard Butler in this movie when I was younger. Like, he was like my first celebrity crush, really, and like one of my only ones. I was obsessed with him. I know. But Audrey was always Team Raoul because she has taste.
It's true.
Yeah. So I have to give her credit for that. Next up we have Miranda Richardson as Madame Giry. She's best known for The Crying Game, The Hours, Spider, Sleepy Hollow, the like Tim Burton one, and she's Rita Skeeter in Harry Potter. Of course I have to mention that just because it's so relevant to us. But she's one of those actors that's done like a ton of shit. She also was the Queen of Hearts in the Tina Majorino Alice in Wonderland that we watched as kids.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Tina Majorino, call me, because I've tried to slide into her DMs so many times and it doesn't work, but I'm going to keep trying. And also Miranda Richardson is the evil queen in the weird straight to VHS Snow White that we got from Sam's Club, which is yet another forbidden sleepover cinema episode.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if anyone has seen it, but we watched it a lot. And I would love to talk about it. Okay. Last but not least, we have Minnie Driver as Carlotta, who's like the grand diva. She's known for Circle of Friends, The Riches, Good Will Hunting, Speechless, Will and Grace, Ella Enchanted, and she's the voice of Jane in Tarzan. And even though she is a singer, the singing that you hear Carlotta doing in this movie is not Minnie Driver because she cannot do opera, but she is the singing voice of the credits song. Yeah. So she does sing kind of.
And I respect her. I really respect that she was like, no, let's get a real opera singer, and like make sure it sounds right. I respect that so much. I would so much prefer that. Pull a Minnie Driver, pull a Christopher Plummer, than get what we got with Gerard Butler. It is
okay, but bad. I personally will defend it because I think if you have nothing to compare it to, it's fine.
Right, but literally 96% of the audience does have. I think like a lot of the audience did have something to compare it to.
Let's get into these numbers here. Audrey, would you care to take us there?
So Yeah, so it's interesting. As Hannah was saying, Andrew Lloyd Webber said, you know what? I'm not going to give the rights from this show to a big studio. I'm going to instead finance this myself, which makes it an
Yes.
independent film, which is really funny.
Warner Brothers bought the rights in 1989, but Andrew Lloyd Webber was committed to sticking with it as the main producer, even though Warner was involved. And then they were going to have Sarah Brightman and Michael Crawford, the original stars, be in it. But then Sarah Brightman and Andrew Lloyd Webber, who were married, got separated. And so they did not return to the project until December 2002. But Andrew Lloyd Webber did not update his director choice. He kept it exactly the same as he had picked 10 years ago based off of basically nothing. So just keep that in mind.
So the budget was $80 million, hard-earned cash by Mr. ALW. And so yeah, at the time, it was the most expensive independent film ever made. Box office opening weekend was $4,001,890. Is that correct? Anyway.
Yes.
The overall worldwide gross is $154,648,887. So yeah, I mean, ultimately they know that like Phantom of the Opera is a huge global phenomenon. It will make its money back, but the fact that it had a $4 million opening weekend is really funny. I'm so sorry. And then critically, it got a 33%. Yikes. The critic consensus is the music of the night has hit something of a sour note. Critics are calling the screen adaptation of Andrew Lloyd Webber's popular musical histrionic, boring, and lacking in both romance and danger. Still, some have praised the film for its sheer spectacle. Yeah, that's the vibe, honestly. What are these? Just like more?
These are critic one-line reviews.
Okay.
There's 2 bad ones and 1 good one.
Okay. So here's some more critic reviews. Someone says, deserves to be locked up in a dank, water-filled dungeon and left to molder. Another critic says, committing one unforced error after another on its way to becoming one of the sloppiest major musicals of contemporary times. And thirdly, visually impressive, at times to the point of mesmerizing and emotionally stimulating, the film touches the heart and soul, and once again reaffirms Hollywood's and the public's love of the movie musical. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. But the most interesting information is yet to come, which,
all right,
please, you should read this.
So the audience score is 84%. So that's a huge disparity, biggest we've ever seen in this entire show. We're talking 50% differences. Like that's nuts. And the reviews from the audience are essentially, this is amazing, or this is total shit, I hate musicals, or Gerard Butler is really bad, and why did they cast him? And yeah, I concur with all 3 statements.
For the gossip section, like, this movie is so divorced from any greater cultural context of the time, other than this one thing, which is that it's been suggested by like media critics, and also I feel like we're inevitably going to end up talking about a lot of Lindsay Ellis's points from her video about the adaptation of this movie. It's been suggested that this movie was looking to compete with Chicago, which ultimately won Best Picture.
I think they lost.
Yeah, like the sexy elements and the like the darkness. I mean, obviously Phantom of the Opera is like extremely dark, but like the sexification of it all I feel like was very Chicago-y. So I kind of just have some notes that I thought were interesting from the behind the scenes documentary. They were talking about casting such a young Christine in this movie, and Joel was like, and this kind of made me think that he was gay, like how he was describing this. It was like very like white gay man to be talking like this way. He was like, Christine is just so innocent, like her being a super youthful actress would like assist in that innocence. And then he described Emmy Rossum as being an exquisite 16-year-old. And I personally have a theory. This is deep down. I have no evidence for this, even though I do have like a weird amount of like cool, like not that many degrees of separation away from Phantom of the Opera, the Broadway thing. Like the way that they pick their Christines historically has always felt a little bit predatory to me. Like just who they get, how young they are, who's in charge, who produces it. Like, I don't know, it just gives me weird vibes. But that was the thing that I saw.
We are talking about Daddy Issues, the musical.
Literally, it's Daddy Issues musical. And speaking of Daddy Issues the musical, basically in the same breath as him describing her as an exquisite 16-year-old and that her youth would assist it, he was like, yeah, I think that her relationship with the Phantom is like very sexual and soulful, and it's like her sexual awakening. And I'm like, ew.
I mean,
She
that
doesn't need
really
to be
comes
16.
That's like what he wanted, though. Directorially, you can tell that that's the direction he's giving her, and it makes for a really like uncomfortable viewing experience.
Yes, or it's like if you're not buying into it like 100,000,000%, it's like very creepy. And how could she, okay, this was really haunting me. How could Raoul have been her childhood friend if he's like 30 and she's 16?
Yeah, it's like, oh, so he was holding her?
So he was creepy.
He was holding her as a baby, basically.
I just hate that. And then the last thing that I thought was really funny was Minnie Driver talking about how she'd always wanted to do a musical, and then she did this and she didn't get to sing. And she was talking about how the director was encouraging her to like play it up, and I guess he said no one ever paid to see Under the Top versus Over the Top. And she's like, yeah, I learned to love camp. Which just was very funny to me. Where do we even begin with talking about our childhood and this movie?
Well, I don't actually know why did you start listening to it, or like what happened? Like, I don't even know.
Yeah. So what happened was that I was like always into theater and stuff. Like Audrey and I were both into like Wicked and shit. I don't know. We were like kids in like 2003. But in my 6th grade choir class at Roberts Middle School, the fucking worst place on earth, my choir teacher showed us Phantom of the Opera one day in class, and we only watched like the first 45 minutes, but like you get through Music of the Night in the first 45 minutes. So like you know what you're in for, basically. And I remember watching the first chunk, and then I was like, oh, I'm obsessed with this and I need to see the rest of it like now. But this bitch was like a legend because she also showed us Lacrimosa by Evanescence, which is like the Evanescence Mozart reference song. Her name was Ms. Stewart, and I hope that she's thriving, and I wish that I could find her because she did a good job being a music teacher. I also learned song structure from her. But yeah, best teacher at Roberts probably. I hated that place. But I got super duper duper obsessed with it. It was very horny in all the ways that you want when you don't know what you want when you're like a child, you know. Audrey's cringing. That's just how it is.
It's weird territory, but yeah.
What are your associations with it?
Well, yeah, so this was just another thing that was like passed to me through Hannah. And then we saw a production of it in Canada.
We did.
I remember that, and that was like once we were already into it. So we like our parents got tickets for us to see it because they knew we would enjoy it. Like we were into it. And
yes.
And they aren't at all, so it's very funny.
Yeah, our parents like don't like musicals, and somehow this is how things work out.
It's pretty sad for them.
Even though honestly. I feel like Dad secretly does.
Well, I mean, they like them enough to buy us tickets to go see them. So like it's fine.
Yeah.
They definitely appreciate it, but it's just not like they're not into it. Like it's not a personal interest, basically.
Right.
But yeah, so and when, you know, last episode we were talking about like making videos with our cousins and stuff, like I know there was just some questionable, like, I don't even know what to call it because I'm not sure what we were doing, but all I know is I was playing Christine and you were playing Meg, and there's this like tiny clip of us doing it, and then we like accidentally taped over the rest. So like to this day, I don't know what we were like doing.
Honestly, I'm so grateful that got recorded over.
Yeah, me too.
There's so much more we could say, but there's so much to say about the movie itself. So we are going to take our break now. Phantom of the Opera is on HBO Max. If you have that subscription, go check it out there. It's 2.5 hours, but it's a fast 2.5 hours if you know how to enjoy it. So please light some candles. Maybe get some red candlesticks and let them drip dramatically into like a candelabra.
Yeah.
Get out your Ruffliest shirt.
Get out your
and
wax
your black
seal.
leather gloves.
Get out your wax seal.
Get out your tiny handmade figurines of your friends and family that you can exchange the heads of, and get ready for the second half. We are back, and I cannot even anticipate how much shit we're about to say about Phantom of the Opera, because I feel like we could probably do like 4 episodes on this if we wanted to.
Yeah.
So let's start with the good things, and I will invite Audrey to start us.
Okay, so I actually, sadly, I don't have that many things in appreciate, because I think I was trying to set aside nostalgia and just really look at it, you know, like really look at it with fresh eyes. And Patrick Wilson, yeah, we know. Patrick Wilson's wig, yeah, we know. I think that it's hilarious that they added a man voguing in Masquerade.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. Like, it's very out of its time. I don't know why it's there, but
Well, I did see who the choreographer was in the documentary today, and when you see the choreographer, it does make a bit more sense.
Right, but like I'm talking about like as a director, like that choice is crazy. Yeah, I mean it's mostly just that everybody in it is really beautiful. And other than that, it's not serving me a whole lot.
My good things. I was grateful that this was not sung live, because it would have been absolute shit.
Yeah.
But speaking of live sung musicals, apparently Hugh Jackman was also confirmed for Phantom at one point. So,
I mean,
I'm glad that we dodged that.
No, I mean, that would have been better. That would have been better than Gerard, because it wasn't recorded live.
Voice.
But at least, like, because Hannah, like, seriously, listening to Gerard's vocals this time around, I was like, I actually can't believe that this is what it is. Like, he doesn't blend with anyone. He has no vibrato. There are so many vocal cheats going on in the edit. Like, if you can't hire someone who can sing the last note of Music of the Night like as long as it should be, then why do it? Like, if Andrew Lloyd,
you know what?
if Andrew Lloyd Webber is so particular about how he wants the integrity of the show to be translated into film, then why is he allowing this amateur to be the Phantom? Like, it just seems weird to me.
I think it was like horny Joel Schumacher and Andrew Lloyd Webber for some reason just being like grandpa and like getting it in his brain and being like, yep, this is it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I really love Miranda Richardson's performance and Patrick Wilson's, obviously. I still stand by the fact that if you have nothing to compare it to, Gerard is totally fine. I know that's kind of controversial. I love Christine's single tendril. She has a single tendril that does a lot of work in this movie because it's like clearly real hair and then like a length piece kind of in there, which I also think her hair looks beautiful. They really take advantage of her curls in this movie. The cleavage is working overtime across the board in this whole movie.
Yeah.
There's so much boobs, and it's like Pirates of the Caribbean kind of. It's like a similar thing. I thought it was really funny when in the scene they added for the movie when they're doing the sword fight, when Phantom gets knocked to the ground and you can see his exposed fancy vest.
Yeah.
It has like a floral fabric. And also I'm like, wait, so the fact that they threw that in there and then Raoul didn't kill him then, I was like, I don't know if I really buy that, but like, okay.
Yeah.
Also the part during Point of No Return when Patrick thinks that she low-key chose the Phantom and he looks so demoralized. The end of this movie is his moment, honestly. Love that.
Watching it when I was younger, I always wanted to skip the flashbacks and the black and white parts because they're boring as hell, and personally, I don't think they add anything. I get why it's there in the beginning because the show also starts that way. It starts in like in the future, sort of.
A future timeline from the main plot.
Yeah. And I also understand how they came up with the idea to flesh out that time period in the movie because otherwise you're seeing it this one time and that's it. And
right.
They also make some new points and connections between the little monkey toy, and whatever. Basically, Raoul buys the monkey toy at an auction, and then he goes to Christine's grave and puts it there with a red rose, or there's already a red rose there, right?
Yeah, but you get that, right?
Yeah, I get it. But it's like, why is it like... I didn't need to know she died. Like, in the context of the movie.
Wait. I need to know that you get why the rose is there.
What do you mean?
Do you get why it's there?
Yeah. Like, the Phantom put it
why
there?
Why is it there?
Yeah. Duh. What else would it be?
But you were acting so neuch about it. I was like, does she know why it's there? Yeah, I was also confused about why he would bring that box to her grave.
Yeah. Like, okay. Interesting. And it's like a framing device that is used in the musical in a way that makes sense. Like, I think
yes,
that works, and it's great. It's a great theatrical moment because you see the chandelier rise as you go back in time. Doesn't necessarily have the same effect in the movie. It's still grand, but it's just like, we don't need this. And so, it stays so close in adaptation that I think it kind of forgets that it's a movie a lot of the time. It's like, but the changes that they do make are weird. Like having the characters talk lines that should be sung.
Yeah.
Like speak lines that should be sung, and they have the score behind them as they're speaking the lines, so you can literally hear how it should be, but they're just not doing it. I have a real issue with the way that this movie was shot. It looks like basic coverage for a documentary. Like, it looks... There is no perspective, there's no style, it's dry. It's very, very, very dry. And it's just that the possibilities and the opportunities are so great. Like, there's just so many things you could do that it makes me sad that they chose to instead basically record the Broadway show with a set. In a very sort of objective way. Like if you were an audience member, like if you were just a person standing there in the room with them. That's basically how they shot it. And to me, it's just a huge lost opportunity for some really cool shots that they just didn't do.
Yeah.
I also think the editing job is poor in this movie because, again, like, musicality is a huge thing with musicals, and if your editor doesn't have that skill,
a musical bone in their body,
then, like, and maybe they do, I don't know, maybe it was the director, who knows, but it ruins the flow of things, and like what you're seeing, for how long you're seeing it, and when the cuts are really matter. And I think that there's some blatant disregard for that in a lot of these songs. And another thing about the edit, and I'm sure this has to do with vocals, I'm positive it does, there are moments where you are hearing a very, very grand note or a really important vocal moment, and you're not seeing anyone's face. They're hidden. Like the final note in, Christine's super, super high note in whatever that is.
Yep.
You see the back of her head for that shot. It's this
wishing
really...
you were somehow here again. Yeah.
No. When she's in the
canoe, think of me?
When she's in the kayak thing.
Fan of the title song.
Yeah, fan of
the gondola. Yeah. The gondola.
Right. Yeah, the gondola. You see the back of her head for that final note, and
it's also true in Wishing You Were Somehow Here Again.
Yeah, and it's like, guys, could she not even lip sync that? Like, I'm confused.
Right. The framing device is bad, but they literally just put on like a film grain filter and it looks like shit. I thought that was really funny. I didn't get why Raoul wanted the music box, but I said that already. Okay. One of the things that has me the most confused about the framing device, though, one more time, is the auctioneer's like, and all of you might remember that little incident with the opera ghost, like, acting like it, like, the way I just said it was, like, more dramatic than he said it. Like, he's very, like, oh, yes, like, the opera ghost incident of whatever. This. And then I'm like, wait. But isn't the opera all fucked up and shut down because of the fire that was caused by the Phantom? Or are we to assume that the entire establishment withstood the flames that were so engulfing that they were puncturing the windows at the end? That, like, that, I was just so confused. I'm like, okay, wait, so is it not that big of a deal, or was it that big of a deal? Because he's like the little incident of the opera ghost where, like, multiple people were killed on stage, you know? The sound mixing of the movie in general is total shit. Like, I was watching it on the TV, and the songs were at like a 9 out of 10, and the dialogue was at like a 3 out of 10 volume wise. And so I was like constantly toggling back and forth. That was not the best movie watching experience. Okay, I know that there's a question later in the episode. Least favorite song. I'm just going to go ahead and give my answer now because Prima Donna is so fucking annoying.
That's what I said too.
It's so irrelevant to the plot, and it's in a place that it just slows you down so much. It drives me crazy. And it's also like the old man song, like the classic old man song.
Also, let's just say the scenes added, so it's Raul falling into a well. It's the sword fighting, and it's the backstory of the Phantom. Like,
the backstory of the Phantom is like so aggressive for no reason.
I feel like the backstory of the Phantom is the only one that we really is the one that adds the most out of the added scenes, because at least it is really brutal, but we get it. Like, it's like, okay, I see how this person could be this way now. Like, okay. And it also gives you good background for Madame Jury as well.
Yeah.
And it makes you like her more. And it makes you understand her stance on, like, why is she not scared? Why is she not concerned about this dude?
Right.
because she knows he's like a genius, but he's like becoming harmful. So that's the problem.
Toxic genius.
Yeah.
He's an architect and a painter. A genius, monsieur.
And a magician.
Oh, yeah, and a magician.
As far as like problematic, maybe things being communicated to young people watching the Phantom of the Opera, it's like I didn't comprehend like how dumb Christine is until later in life, and also how like predatory this show is. And all the lessons being learned here are really gray. Like, it doesn't really say, what does it say? Like, what is it telling us? I don't really know.
There is no takeaway. I kind of love that it's like spectacle for the sake of spectacle and like drama for the sake of drama. Like, that's why I think I still enjoy it.
It's like tragedy. It's like like soap opera-y. Like, it's very it's just drama, which is fun.
So one of the things that came up in the episode of Wholehearted that I did about Phantom of the Opera is that part of what is so appealing about it is that like as Audrey was saying, as someone like relating to Christine, if you're like a young girl or like a young gay watching this movie, you are like, I want to be the center of attention. Like, I want to be fought over. Like, I want to be swept away to a weird underground layer. And
it's like Bella Swan.
You know? Literally, Audrey, I almost said earlier that this is like the perfect foreshadowing to like Team Edward, Team Jacob type shit. Like, the love triangle, the dark aspect of it. Like, I feel like if you loved Twilight, you would also love Phantom of the Opera and vice versa, because there is a very similar thing to it.
Yeah, extremely. And also sort of Beauty and the Beast as well.
Yes. Except you don't like the other guy in Beauty and the Beast.
No, you don't. There's no chance of it. But yeah.
Are Jacob, Gaston, and Raoul all Chads?
They're all connected. Another nice thing to say about Patrick Wilson is that I do feel that he brings like real humility to the character that isn't necessarily there in the stage version. Like, you're not like in love with Raoul as a character. Like, in the stage show, I feel like he's just all right, and you know that he's wealthy and like he's at least not like living in a basement. I don't know.
He's not like scary as fuck.
So it's like fine, but he also has he's a lot more like aggressive about getting rid of the Phantom. But in the movie version, he wants to hear them out. He wants to have a meeting with Madame Giry, hear the background, like what's up with this guy. And he's like, oh, I get it. He's like, that's rough, you know, but and I get it, Christine, you don't want to do it, but there's no other way. Like, this is the only way to do it. And I think that adds a lot to the character.
Yeah, they like sensitivity wash him for the movie for sure.
Yeah.
Audrey suggested these new categories for the musical episodes, and it's favorite song, least favorite song, favorite line to sing, and is it a good adaptation? Let's start with favorite song. We already said least favorite song. Audrey, what's your favorite song?
Overall favorite song, and this isn't like favorite line, but it's favorite song. I also wrote favorite. That's another category I have, is like favorite line to sing. Did you say that?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I think I might have I think I said it, but favorite line to sing.
Yeah, but my favorite song is All I Ask of You. Sorry. It is.
I also really love All I Ask of You. It's so, well, because it's Patrick Wilson just going off.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, when
he does that tiny little vocal fry on Anywhere You Go, Let Me Go.
It's so nice. Like,
you're like, oh my God.
And they blend really well.
Okay, favorite song for me? It's gotta be
Point of No Return.
Probably, yeah. I love Point of No Return. There's some cool notes in it. It's like a musically interesting song, I think.
Yeah, that's my second place.
I also really like Music of the Night, but I don't really like the verses, but like the refrain is like a banger and a half.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, favorite line to sing? What's yours?
As the movie was going on, I kept writing down more because I was like, ooh, which one is like the best?
Yeah.
But in the song that they added, like, I actually really like the melody of that. Also, it's in your soul where the true distortion lies. That is great.
Well, here's the thing. I love singing male show tunes because I have a low
Yeah.
singing voice, and so there's a lot of material for me to pull from here. But I really like when I like the line, "Let your soul take you
Yes.
where you long to be." but it's Gerard, so he's like,
"Boo!"
I love that line. I love when they really loudly go, "Anywhere you go, let me go too." Love that. I really like when the Phantom very, very emo-ly sings "All I Ask of You" at the end.
Yeah.
Like, hit me with that shit any day of the week. I love it.
He's barely singing it.
Is it a good adaptation? Absolutely not. But is it a good movie? I personally think that this movie is beyond dismissal because it has contributed too much to my life that I cannot see past it.
I would almost swap, like, my opinion, I would, like, swap what you're saying in a way because, is it a good adaptation if your goal is to watch something that represents the contents of the stage musical? Then it's a good adaptation. But it's not a good film adaptation. Like, it's not a good movie in terms... There's this loud-ass saw out here, so sorry if you're hearing that.
It's okay.
But it's not a good film adaptation in terms of converting it to film language. But it is a good representation of what you would see if you went to the theater. Like, this is what you would hear, you know, but way better. It would be way better.
Yeah,
if you
right.
saw
Except
theater.
bad singing.
Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it.
And it's bad singing, but it isn't bad singing to like the Les Mis level of bad singing. Like, there's been worse.
Yeah, and that's
movie
because they
musicals.
gave them the grace of singing in the studio and letting somebody edit and edit their vocals versus Mr. Tom Hooper over here loves to have everybody embarrass themselves on set after starving themselves to look gaunt for Les Mis and then literally like trashing their voice and then having them look stupid. So I'm not a fan of that.
He lives to humiliate the girls.
Yeah, he does. It's so wrong.
We will definitely end up doing that movie at some point, and I'm sure we'll have a grand old time. I haven't watched it since I saw it, but
Same, because it's bad.
This was a sprawling episode, and there's just so much to say that I didn't even say about the emotional connection to it for me, but I already have created a content piece that explains all that, so I'll link to that. But I fucking love Phantom of the Opera. I think it's such a ridiculous movie, and it's bad, but in all the best ways for me personally.
Right. I have a lot of nostalgia for it, and I tried to remove those glasses for this reevaluation, remove the rose-colored glasses. And again, like, Lindsay Ellis does have a video essay about this version of Phantom of the Opera that we kind of echoed throughout this episode. So if you enjoyed this episode, you'll definitely enjoy that video.
Yeah, and I'll link to that as well. Okay, so next week we will be doing a much less dark musical. We have not decided what it is yet. We have not yet decided what it is yet. But I'm sure that we're going to continue to have a good old time because at last we are doing musicals where we truly thrive. Yeah. So thank you for going with us on this journey. And we will be back with you soon.
Bye. You can find more from us at evergreenpodcast.com/sleepover-cinema and keep up with our latest creative projects at toopinkpictures.com. If you want to watch our show as well as listen, we're on YouTube too. Search Sleepover Cinema or go to the link tree in our Instagram bio. We're on Instagram and Twitter at toopinkpictures and would love to hear from you there. We're also on TikTok at Sleepover Cinema, and that's really where the party is at.
And if you like the show, if it brings back evocative memories of childhood or tweendom or babysitting, share the episode with a few friends. Leave us an iTunes review telling us what movie you'd like to see us cover next, and leave us a review if you like the show, and if you don't. Sleepover Cinema is a production of Evergreen Podcasts, produced, edited, and engineered by us, Hannah and Audrey Leach. Sleepover Cinema is mixed by Sean Rule Hoffman, with theme music by Josh Perlman Hall. Special thanks to executive producers Michael D'Aloia and David Moss. We'll chat again soon.